Oh, okay. Hello and welcome to In Our Community. My name is Liz Holtz and I'll be your host this day. And today we have a special guest. This is Larry Clark from the Alameda Business Association. He is the treasurer of the Business Association. He's going to tell us a bit about the Alameda and different things that go on there. Welcome, Larry.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you here. So, first of all, Larry, can you tell us a little bit about the Alameda Business Association? Exactly, when was the association formed? What does the association do?
Sure. The Alameda Business Association was formed way back in 1980. It was an effort of the redevelopment agency at that point to try, they came up with a lot of different districts, business districts, and they were trying to invigorate the business activity in San Jose, and that's where we're located. So we encompass the street, the Alameda, as it relates to San Jose. The Alameda stretches from Santa Clara to almost downtown to the Diridon station. So that's generally our area, and we, as a business association, try to promote the area. We work with the different homeowners associations in the area, and we try to, in a synergistic way, make the place better.
Oh, that's a wonderful thing. So now I understand that the Business Association over the years has been quite active in doing numerous things to promote and enhance the neighborhood. Could you tell us about a few of those projects?
Well, one of the really big things, I think, is that we undertook a project to redo the street. The street had really fallen into hard times. Everybody complained about the ruts and potholes that you'd find on the street. It hadn't been repaved for a long, long time. So a group of us got together and we formed a committee and we did a study, and we got funding for the study to the tune of about $300,000 to map out how the Alameda ought to look like. And we got a really good product out of that and a lot of suggestions on what we should do. But more importantly, and one of the mantras that I had was, hey, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to plan for a new street unless there's a plan to implement whatever we come up with. And it turned out, thanks to both the state and the city, we were able to get about $4.5 million to repave the street, put new islands in. If you go down the Alameda today, you'll notice there's a lot of trees in the median. It's a really nice place to be. And I think that's central to the mission of the Alameda Business Association, trying to facilitate the business that is on the street and try to attract other businesses to the street. One of the really great things is that Whole Foods has come to the Alameda in Stockton. It's like any shopping center. You have to have two anchor tenants, right? Mm-hmm. And so the Whole Foods serves as one end of our business district, and the other is sort of the already established center of our business district, which is at the intersection of Race and the Alameda. Mm-hmm. So now people have a reason to walk up and down the street, and when you get a lot of traffic up and down the street, you really have a sense of community, and people are coming down, they're staying in the area, they like to stroll with their kids and their pets, and I think that's what's happening to the Alameda right now.
Yeah, well, and as part of that project, didn't you also have the sidewalks widened as well? So now there's areas where the restaurants actually have seating out on the sidewalks, for people to go and eat during the summer or to enjoy a cocktail outside.
Well, it's interesting. The Alameda has always been a very wide street, mm-hmm. and it was by legislation back in the 1800s that they arrived at 115 feet to be the size of the Alameda, and that included these wide sidewalks that you allude to. Those have always been there. Mm-hmm. But what we were able to do in the process of wresting away control of the street from the state of California to local control was that we were able to make sure that we could use those sidewalks, because it was a state highway. It was State Highway 82, mm-hmm. and you can't have picnic tables on the side of a highway, can you? So by virtue of them ceding control of the street back to San Jose, we were able to, that is to say the restaurant owners on the street, were able to put their tables out on the sidewalk, and it's now becoming a very walkable, very nice place to be in the evening, going from restaurant to restaurant, from bar to bar.
Yeah, and one of the things that you alluded to is the fact that the Alameda is a very historic area. So can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Alameda, the roadway called the Alameda?
I'm glad you asked about the history, because that's been an important part of the Alameda and the Alameda Business Association. We published a book called The Alameda, the Beautiful Way, after doing some research on what the history of this street was. When I first moved my business to the Alameda, I knew that there was this great history, but I didn't really know what it was. And so we undertook the research, and the Alameda was actually originally came to be in 1799. And the reason the Alameda exists is that the good fathers at the then Mission Santa Clara wanted to persuade their parishioners to get to church on Sundays, but there wasn't really a good way to get there from San Jose. And so the fathers went out and with their neophytes, and they planted trees up and down the street. And that's why you have trees even today lining the street. They're also really interesting, I think, because it connect the other practical reason for having the street. And you'll notice that the street makes some abrupt turns. Right at Ray Street, you'll notice it makes an abrupt turn. What it's doing is it's following the gradient of the land right there, and they wanted to get water from the Guadalupe to the farmlands at the Santa Clara Mission, and there were canals on either side of the street. In fact, there were little boats, and they called them zanhasas, and they would go up and down. It would be a means of transporting goods back and forth between the Mission and the then Pueblo San Jose. And so there was a very practical reason why the street is very wide, and why it takes some abrupt turns, and why it's located where it's located.
And I believe the Alameda has been known as the Beautiful Way because of that history of having the big trees and just this very lush, grandiose houses, things like that historically. There was
a book published in 1878 by the Ladies Benevolent Society, and they drafted, or they wrote a poem, an ode to the Alameda, and it was called The Alameda, the Beautiful Way, and it goes on for 36 pages, extolling the virtues of this street and the people that lived there and the houses that were existent there at that time. And it's a great thing to read, but also the pen and ink drawings of the houses and the trees and everything in this little book is a real treasure.
Well, and even now, the Alameda area is very historical. I know that a lot of the homeowners in that area are very proud of the historic roots of the neighborhoods, that they've gone so far as to go through, and when they restore their homes, they've taken the extra steps to have their homes designated as historic sites, so that they will remain that way. You know, the neighborhood associations are extremely active in protecting that. But what are some of the other historical sites or historical things that have been in that area on the Alameda?
Well, one of the really interesting things, to me anyway, was that there was an agricultural park that was brought into existence probably in the 1850s, and it was basically the county fair, basically, and it was right there on the corner of Race and the Alameda. And one of the things they had there was a big racetrack, so everybody would come down on Sundays and go to the racetrack. There was and this is very important, because there was a velodrome there, and a velodrome is a bicycle racing track, and that was built probably between 1892 and 1895, and that's when bicycling was just the biggest thing in San Jose. It's probably the biggest activity in the country at that point. And not to be outdone, that was the first one that was built in San Jose. There is yet another velodrome built probably just maybe a half mile away on the premises of Lincoln High School, and if you there's some pictures of that before Lincoln High School was built. There's a picture of the velodrome, and I have one that shows just a full stand of people, probably 3,500 people, watching bicycles
go around in circles.
Hey, bicycling has always been a big tradition on the Alameda. In the process of putting the book together, it was uncovered that then Judge Rhodes, who lived there's a Rhodes Court that intersects the Alameda there. He had a petition to prevent. The big complaint of the locals back then was these bicyclists, these errant bicyclists, were going onto the sidewalks. And Judge Rhodes and about 20 other prominent citizens petitioned the city government to prohibit the existence or the use of the sidewalks by these bicyclists. And this was, it just gives you a flavor for how big bicycling was back in the day.
And those regulations hold true today.
I would expect. I think they're not as enforced as you might think.
Yes. I remember when I was a teenager, in downtown Palo Alto, not being able to ride on the sidewalk and riding on the sidewalk because it was safer than riding in the street. Yeah. And of course now bicycling has kind of come back around. And is popular again. So, now we have bike lanes that are put in. We have bike groups that, do rides together. And, a lot of publicity to share the road with the bicyclists. So, also, I understand there was a brewery that was on the Alameda.
I believe it was founded actually in 1868. It was called the Fredericksburg Brewery. There's some great old pictures of this brewery. It looked like a medieval castle. It had turrets and it was brick, and it was a huge block in width and depth. And there was a little park on the inside, and you would go down to the brewery on a Sunday or Saturday, and you would actually have bottles that were there for refill, and they would bring the bottles out to the picnic tables, and you go there with your family and drink beer and have a picnic. I have one of those old bottles that came from the brewery, and it's sort of a treasure of mine, just because it says "not for resale." Eventually it became the Falstaff Brewery. And it closed, I think, in the 80s, and it was developed into some property for. There's a big apartment complex there now.
Yeah.
But that was a big part of the Alameda.
Well, and Falstaff is a name that many people may remember from bygone era. Yeah. Now, of course, there is a new brewery on the Alameda over at the Whole Foods. And there's also a couple of wineries. There's J. Lohr Winery is there, as well as the Coterri Winery.
Right. So no matter where you go, there you are. You can run from your history, but I think there's a lot of potential for people to want to have that kind of that kind of convenience. I just don't think it.
Well, now, also part of the history of the Alameda is that there used to be a lot of parades there. There's a history of having parades on the Alameda. Can you tell us a little bit about that history and what how that's kind of morphed along the years?
The history of parades
on the Alameda.
Yeah, we originally parades started in 1896. And that was the Rose Carnival back then. And there was another parade in 1901. And McKinley came to town. McKinley was president at that time. And so it was a really big deal for California to have the President of the United States. You can imagine what a big deal that was. And they went nuts. And the problem is he didn't spend too much time in England at the time. I'm sorry, in California at the time. But we did have the President of the United States. Now, ironically, and I don't think it had anything to do with it, but exactly to the day, 4 months later, McKinley was shot and lost his life as President of the United States. But then after the 1910. 1910 was the last parade in that form. We started another kind of form of parade in 1926 to 1933. Then this was called the Fiesta de las Rosas, and this was a very big parade. It was a massive parade. I've got a lot of pictures of those. The old floats and the groups and everything else that went into it. And the amazing thing to me is to look at the people that are watching the parade. Mm-hmm. And these are all people that are dressed in suits and ties and formal hats, and the ladies are dressed up. They took these parades very seriously, and they came down to the Alameda and really watched the parade very, very carefully and very diligently. And the contribution to the entries into the parade were all covered with real flowers, just like the Rose Parade. In fact, one of the traditions was that we would bring one of our floats down to Pasadena, and Pasadena would bring one of theirs up to ours because they were at different times of the year, and that would be May compared to January 1st, and so we would always have a Pasadena float in the Fiesta de las Rosas, and we would have one down in the Rose Parade. So that's the kind of, now in about 1933, the Depression sort of kicked in, and we didn't have, we had a problem there. But we have tried to restore this in our tradition with the Rose, White, and Blue Parade that we started now 9 years ago. We are in our 9th year.
So what encouraged the Alameda Business Association to start up a parade?
We were really tired of the farmers market. Is that a good answer? In truth, I had run the farmers market for the association. It was just a volunteer sort of thing, and it was okay. But I think, now look, going out there every Saturday, that's a lot of work. It's got to be easier just having a one-time only parade on the Alameda. That's got to be a lot easier.
Well, and it sounds like you were influenced by the history of having parades on the Alameda.
Oh, definitely. It was a logical place and a logical thing to do. Well, it turns out putting on a parade is a lot of work. We had, for instance, last year we had 115 groups in the parade. We had 2,000 people in the parade. We had tens of thousands of people coming out to see the parade. One of the big things for a parade is you have to have a really good grand marshal, because the grand marshal really sets the tone for a parade. We've had some great ones. We've had Steve Wozniak. Steve Wozniak, if you're ever having a parade out there and you want a really good grand marshal, ask Steve Wozniak. He was absolutely fabulous. We put him on a float that looks like an Egyptian boat. He did the Queen's wave to everybody as he went through the parade. He had his Segway group. He belongs to a Segway group. So he had 15 Segways going around the float that we had put him on. And at the end of the parade, he was doing posing with can-can people, kicking their legs for photo opportunities. Steve Wozniak, he's your grand marshal if you're organizing the parade. But we've had some other great ones. We had Crazy George last year. Crazy George is the well-known cheerleader from San Jose State.
Yes.
And you got to go with what they want to do. And he insisted that he wanted to try to have the world's longest wave. Now, he's famous for originating the stadium wave, where everybody puts their hands up, right? Well, he wanted to have the longest wave, so we put him at the beginning of the parade, working backwards before the parade started, and engineered the world's longest wave on a fire truck, an old antique fire truck, with all the people conforming to his request for putting their hands up as the world's longest wave. We have a grand marshal for this year too, and I'm proud to announce that Beth Hayden is going to be our grand marshal. You may know that she and her brother Eric Hayden were bicyclists, Olympic bicyclists. She won a medal in the 1980 Olympics. Her brother won 5 gold medals in
ice skating.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I've got bicycling on my mind.
Yeah, they were speed skaters, I believe.
He was speed skaters. The reason I started talking about bicycling is that they turned to bicycling right after their exploits in the world of speed skating, and they were both nominated into the Bicycle Hall of Fame, and are really royalty in terms of the bicycling world, and very, very well known. And Beth is just the nicest person. She lives here locally in Santa Clara Valley. She and her husband go off and do long bicycle rides even today. She has 3 kids. Just a really, really nice person, and she's going to be in our parade. She's going to be the grand marshal. She's going to really set the tone and be a highlight for us, I think.
And I understand every year the parade has a different theme. So last year with Crazy George, it was the San Jose Spartans.
Right.
And this year, it's all about bicycles on the Alameda.
Yes, it is. Last year we celebrated San Jose State University. We had the president in the parade. We had Crazy George in the parade. But this year we're going to have bicycling as the theme, and we're inviting all the bicycle groups to come in, join us actively, and we're going to provide decorations for the bicycles at the head end of the parade. You can come down with your bicycle, with your family, and you can decorate with crepe paper and put red, white, and blue in the tires, and or not tires, but the wheels, and I think it's just going to be a lot of fun. We're working with one group, and they are going to organize a bicycle ride at the end of the parade. So you ride kind of slowly through the parade to one point, about 1.5 miles or so. But at the end of the parade, if you're part of this group, you want to join in with this group, you can do like a 7-mile fun ride with your family and that sort of thing after the parade. In addition, we have a fair, we have a festival, and we have entertainment, and we're having tents and interesting things to come look at, a place for the kids to play. Food is available for from the local restaurants, and we set out picnic tables under the shade of the trees that are in front of the church that fronts the Alameda where the parade ends.
And I also understand that there's some musical entertainment.
Big Mike and the
Heartbeats are going to be playing at the festival afterwards.
They come highly recommended. We always have a really a fun time with our entertainment that goes up on the stage there at the end of the parade. It should be a good time. We also, this is very important, we have a stage set up. And there's a guy named Mike Hennessy. He's the car guy.
The car guy.
The car guy, and he has a TV show himself. And he goes out and interviews everybody in the parade. And because we have a lot of cars in the parade, it's a very germane to what he does. And we are sponsored this year, and it was last year as well. Umpqua Bank. Umpqua Bank has a local office. 225 Santa Clara Street, and they've just been a fabulous entity to. They really care about the community. I just have not seen this before. They even bring an ice cream truck.
Yes, yes.
And it's full of there's 1,000 ice creams that they give away in the course of the parade.
Yeah, so if your kids weren't excited enough by the parade, we're going to give them sugar and get them really going.
and to mitigate some of that, we're going to have the church as the Westminster Presbyterian Church, where the festival resides. They give out 1,200 hot dogs at the end of the parade as well. They go pretty fast, so you should get there early. But those are the kinds of things that happen at the parade. We're also going to have it's going to be televised with Mike there, of course, and we'll have some after the fact. You can even get a CD with the if you sign up for it with the CD of the parade itself. You might see yourself as a star.
Yeah, and a lot of our viewers actually might be very familiar with Mike Hennessy and the Car Guy channel and stuff, because he's also broadcast here on KMVT Channel 15 here in Mountain View.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He is a great guy. So also, now what about people that want to, obviously, come down to see the parade? Can you give us an idea? What's the parade route?
Well, I was going to just make sure that people ask me, so when is the 4th of July parade?
It is on the 4th of July.
That's what I'd like to tell them, but I also want to tell them that it's on a Monday this year. So it starts at 10 o'clock. So the people that are in the parade get there about 8:30, so that we stage them and get them all in line and all that sort of thing. But it's important to know that it starts at 10 o'clock sharp. It's never been late. It's just one of those things that happen, and it probably goes probably an hour and a half. Everybody gets across the finish line about 11:30 or so, maybe 11:40, something like that. And then right then the festival starts, and we have all the festivities. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what the timing of that is. And the route of the parade, of course, is it starts at Lincoln High School. That's 555 Dana Street in San Jose. It goes down Dana past the Rose Garden Park on Dana, and then it turns onto this fabulous, magnificent street, a residential street called University Avenue. And they've got, just great houses on either side. It's just a magnificent street. Goes all the way down and makes one other turn. So there's only two turns in the parade, all the way down to the Alameda. And then it turns right and then finishes in the business district there on the Alameda.
Great. And I would assume we'd like to encourage as many people to come and participate, bring their groups, bring their trade clubs, sign up to participate in the parade. Where can they get that information? On the parade website?
Yeah, you can go to rosewhiteblueparade.com, rosewhiteblueparade.com, and you can get all the information you'd want. Or there's phone numbers to call if you go to the website, and you can do that as well.
Yeah, and we're encouraging people to come out to bicycle on the Alameda for the Rose, White, and Blue Parade. Also, if people would like to get some additional information about the history of either the parades along the Alameda or the Alameda area itself, the Alameda Business Association also has published 2 books, The Alameda, The Beautiful Way, as well as Roses on Parade, and those are usually available at the parade,
at
the Alameda Business Association booth.
Or you can email us at rwbparade@gmail.com.
Okay.
RWB, Rose, White, and Blue Parade @gmail.com. This is the history of the Alameda. It's a great book. There's a history walk that's in there that you can go up and down the street and find out what happened on the street. And in addition, we have the Roses on Parade. That then takes you through the history that I was talking about, dating all the way back to 1896. What happened on the Alameda, with regard to the parades?
Well, great. So again, I'd like to encourage people to thank our guest Larry Clark for coming this evening. I'd like to encourage our viewers to come down to the parade, check out the information. Again, the website is www.rosewhiteblueparade.com, and it's a great family festival in San Jose.